According to my phone, it's 6 o'clock, and we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order and go, if everyone would stand and rise to the flag, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would run the roll call, please.
Member Horning has an excused absence. Member Campbell has an excused absence. Member Bryant has an excused absence. Member Lamug?
Here.
Vice Chair Stark?
Here.
Chair Clark?
Present.
Member Jones?
Here.
Member Estill?
Here.
And you'll be a voting member this evening. And Member Day has resigned for the record. And we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We all received the minutes from the June 14th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review that? And if so, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Member Stark and a second by Member Still. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify likewise. The minutes have been approved. And technically, we don't have anything listed as old business, but wouldn't this technically be under old business, or? Unless there's something new about it, we'll go and. Okay, we have new photos for the old business, so it's kind of newish. So, Christina, if you want to step up and get the party started.
Sorry about that. Okay, so this one is really what we're looking at today is the request on the one-story building, but I do want to read the background and everything into the record. So the applicant is requesting approval from the Historic Preservation Board for a C of A to blast all of elevations to remove existing finishes on wall surfaces. The project has a previously issued C of A for alterations to all exterior elevations, which included the removal of stucco and lime mortar, removal of paint, repointing brick where necessary, infilling open spaces, mesh wrapping the building, and applying new lime wash. The present proposal is to use coal blasting as the method for removal of lime mortar and paint. And the other thing that you all are looking at is the review of modifications to the existing elevations of the one-story building on the northeast corner. So just as an update, the property is located within the CBD1 zoning within the boundaries of the Historic Preservation District. The building is currently contributing to the local historic district as reflected in the 2020 survey and inventory, and it is proposed as contributing to a potential National Register historic district. The 3.5-story building was constructed in 1910, and it is vacant. On April 12th, on April 12th, the HPB voted to approve modifications to all elevations of the hotel, but they did not include direction regarding the one-story building on the northeast corner in the motion. The board has been provided with the meeting minutes from the April meeting, and they have to vote on these modifications as well. On June 14th, the HPB continued the request for coal blasting of all elevations and review of changes to the one-story building located on the northeast corner of the hotel. The one-story building was constructed over 50 years ago and has been determined by the State Historic Preservation Office to have achieved significance in its own right. On July 12th, I met with representatives from the State Historic Preservation Office. Those representatives were Ruben Acosta, Survey and Registration Supervisor, and Dr. Kira Lucas. She's the Historic Preservationist, and this is for the Bureau of Historic Preservation, Division of Historical Resources. Coal blasting in the Saint Hotel was discussed in detail, and alterations to the one-story building, which was a former restaurant on the northeast corner of the hotel, were also discussed. And during the meeting, videos of the coal blasting process, photos of sample areas where the blasting was undertaken, letters from old world ceilings and walls, and glory sandblasting, and images of the one-story building were reviewed. The consensus reached during the meeting was that the coal blasting would be approved by staff. While coal blasting and any other type of blasting is a damaging process and is normally prohibited for historic buildings, there have been changes to the hotel over time that have compromised the integrity of the existing brick. And for that reason, it was determined that the coal blasting followed by mesh wrapping and new lime wash, which you all had already approved, would be acceptable. And I just want to underscore for you all, and to read this into the record, that it is extremely important to note that this decision was made solely based on the factors present at the St. Cloud Hotel. So this should not be viewed as any kind of precedent-making decision. This is definitely something that we normally don't advocate for. I executed an approval letter for this portion of work as directed by the board. You all gave me permission if we reach that consensus to the state to handle the processing of that, and that has been done. So really the only thing that you all are looking at tonight to consider is the proposed modification to the one-story building located at the northeast corner of the hotel. And I've included in the staff report excerpts from the ordinance, specifically the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. And standard number 4 is the one that applies to the proposed alterations for the one-story building. And that standard states that most properties change over time. Those changes that have acquired historic significance in their own right shall be retained and preserved. And the comment here is that the one-story restaurant addition on the northeast corner of the hotel was constructed over 50 years ago and has acquired historic significance in its own right. So staff is recommending the HPB deny the request for modifications to existing elevations of the one-story building on the northeast corner adjacent to the original hotel building. And the recommendation for denial is based on a finding that the proposed alterations are not consistent with the purpose and intent of ordinance number 2018-57, City of St. Cloud Land Development Code, and does not comply with the requirements outlined in the ordinance. Specifically, the proposed alterations to the one-story building are not appropriate as the building has acquired historic significance in its own right. So I'm going to scroll through some of these photos for you. So I have this image here. So it's a little progressed since this image, so you'll see that we don't have the dormers in this image, but this, you could see clearly the one-story portion of the building. And the images that you have in your packet, there was an addendum that I have other images included, most notably a postcard of the St. Cloud Hotel as it was in 1962. Current conditions of the one-story building are on the second page of that addendum. All the fenestrations of the building that you see in 1962 are the same as present day. The only thing that's really changed from 1962 is the paint color. So there's not been any alterations to fenestrations or any other features. If you go to rendering 1 in the printed packet in front of you, it has the one-story building basically rendering that how it would look in its present condition if it was painted to match the hotel as part of the rehab. There is one addition there that I do want to point out, and that's the overhang over the doorways that you'll see in rendering 1 and rendering 2. There is one other thing, but it's not a significant point, and that is the planters that are at the edge of the roof line. I did discuss those with the State Historic Preservation Office. They felt if they're removable planters and they're not constructed as part of the building and they're just up there to screen mechanical equipment, which is the objective, that they're fine. There would be concern if those planters were intended to be a permanent construction on the roof. Rendering 3 has the proposed modifications to the windows and the fenestration pattern. So you'll see that those windows have been modified, the window openings have been modified to make it more in alignment with the appearance of the St. Cloud Hotel as far as the window design, the spacing of the windows, and all of that. That would require removal of all the original finishes that you presently see out there. And rendering 4 and 5 has the same, just from different views.
From the recommendation standpoint, the recommendation of denial is to modify the facade. That includes the addition of the 2 awnings. Or is that an acceptable element that can be added because the building at one point in time also had awnings added to it
Yes,
as
it
well?
is an acceptable modification. The question really is the modifications to the fenestrations and the change of window type, design, spacing.
So from a standpoint of the addition of the cantilevered overhangs over the door and the non-structural screening up above on the roof area, those would be considered
Acceptable.
acceptable. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I'll open the floor to other members if you'd like to ask questions.
So, just for clarification purposes, so if we do the denial as presented, then the one that looks like that they have done rendering to is the one that you're asking them to do?
Yes.
As I recall, on that building near the entry door, there is a concrete inlaid plaque. Is that part of the historical significance that needs to be retained? Because from some of the renderings I'm seeing, it's gone in the renderings.
Right, we don't have evidence of when that was put in there, so that would be something that I'd have to dig deeper on. I'm not exactly when that plaque was there. It is showing on
It's
there.
shown in 1962.
In
It's just-
1962.
Yeah.
You can see that the white area is actually that plaque area. So it's just a question. I obviously don't know the history of what's actually written on it and when it was done and whether it's even physically,
Part of
you
the,
know, part of the building or whether or not.
It's inlaid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the structure.
yeah. So anything that is presently out there, that would be original, the
Yeah.
idea is to retain it.
Yeah, the decorative masonry elements that surround that area, plus that are also on the other end of that building. Okay. Mateo, did you wish to speak while everybody else is being quiet? Introduce yourself and.
My name is Mateo Hodo, and I'm the project manager for the St. Cloud Hotel. Addressing the plaque has a very nice message to it, and I really think we should keep it. As far as addressing the restaurant, I should have included certain pictures, but if you came on site and you looked at the structure, and you see where the restaurant attaches to the building on all the corners and how it attaches inside, all of the attachments are actually pulling away from the building. So it's an attached building that's not really attached, and it wasn't attached right. Now, that in itself speaks a lot of volume about the history on how it was done and how things were done, and the history of this building that goes on inside of not being set on proper footers, which is why we needed to go to the extent to rebuild it from the footer up. So what we're trying to do is actually put it back together for it to really be together for a really long period of time. Yes, we are changing the restaurant. Yes, we have made a lot of changes. But with the changes that we have made, we are telling the history of the building to any human being that can walk that building. And we're sharing all of its history with all of its modifications that it has had. Because this point in time is the most significant point of time in its lifetime as it is back then. And the history of it, it's so similar that is no coincidence. I am simply an advocate for the building, and I am simply doing my fiduciary duty to the building itself first. And I know to most people it's just a building, but buildings are absolute truth, as we are as human beings deep inside. And they, as absolute truth, you see what goes in them, from the intent of creation to the intent and care to actually build them and do them. and how they sustain over time, they tell you the whole truth. My goal with this project is far more than just saving the building. And I actually would like to read something to you once. At the end of the hotel, and when the hotel is finished, I would like to write a message on the crown of the hotel. That starting from New York Avenue, right underneath the crown, it will say dedicated to inspire. And then going around, this is the whole message. Dedicated to inspire love, compassion, patience, faith, care, kindness, commitment, truth, acceptance, forgiveness, accountability, responsibility, and integrity for prosperity, solidarity, peace, and grace for all. That's really what this project is all about. I understand that we are requesting certain changes, but this building was so far gone that I think that the changes that we're requesting, yes, they do go out of norm, but our efforts are out of norm to bring it back in one piece. And we had this conversation last time. What we're trying to do is unify the whole building in this restoration. And that way, it remains that for the rest of its entirety. And it's actually built to last your community a really long time.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
All right. Back to our members. You all have the floor.
I guess my question is, what is exactly the issue with doing rendering 2 for you guys?
As far as keeping it like that?
What is on rendering 2?
Rendering 2 would remain, keep everything the same. It's just that you're going to change the paint color to unify it with the building.
Correct.
And then
Is that what he's proposing to do?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
He's-
What is it, why, I guess
So
I'm trying to figure out what the problem is with doing
We're
that.
proposing to do rendering 3 and rendering 4 would show what the side of it,
Yeah.
what we're proposing
Okay.
to do.
I-
What we're proposing to do is making that addition actually as part of the building.
I guess
So-
my question is, what is the problem with doing rendering 2?
It's not right for the building.
Yeah. Well, it's not right for the hotel building, but however, we're looking at this building as it stands alone because it is its own element. It's been determined that it's not the hotel. So to make it look like the hotel complicates two things, because first of all, you're adding a building now that you're trying to create a historical significance to, associated to the hotel rather than to that building, and you're taking away the historical element of that existing building. So from a historic preservation standpoint, it's a double whammy against you.
It sure is. And I totally understand, and there is a lot on the other aspect to actually look at too, and what it would set for the future moving forward. I'd like to I really, honestly, simply want to bring to you what the building wants and what is right for the building. And ultimately, it's the community's decision. It's really you as the community also what you want to look at. And I would like to think that back in 52, when it was brought to life and brought as an addition, the idea was to contemporize and add on to the building, and that did not really spark the revitalization of the downtown towards that kind of a look. So it's an addition, it's an attachment that's really kind of detached, and it's an attachment that we're really going to attach. And I would like to attach it properly, not just structurally, but I would like to attach it properly architecturally as well to the existing structure, so that when the whole project is finished, and I would actually be a lot more reserved to request such a thing if the restaurant had a lot of architectural elements inside that preserve that as well, but it doesn't.
From my point of view, this building, circa 50s, early 60s, is complementary to the hotel. You have, your element that you're creating, that cantilevered front canopy coming across. Well, you've got that cantilevered element coming across from that modern edge of the corner building. I feel that the face, as far as it faces to 10th Street, presents a good public face to where you have good connection from a public to private through those fenestrations of the doors and the windows. When you get onto 10th Street, yes, you don't have that same connection because those windows are up at 4+ inches above, so they're really at eye level for only really tall people. But architecturally, it fits. So I think that based on rendering 2 is probably your best overall to get something that doesn't tear away the historical fabric of that corner building and still ties into your hotel. I don't see it taken away from the hotel. And so, I can't say that I would support, wholesale change of the facade to make this blend in with the hotel, because I think it already complements the hotel the way that it is. It may not work as well for whatever vision you have from a restaurant interior standpoint, but restaurant interiors change and update Richard could probably give a better idea, probably every 10 years, 4 to 5
on average, 4 to 5
so,
now.
What your visioning is for the restaurant right now, interior, by changing the exterior, in 4 more years, it may be, oh no, we want to have this area of the restaurant be back and more screened out so it's not as visible. So I can't buy into your argument in regards to changing the facade.
And it's not more the interior that I'm focused on. It's actually more the exterior that I would like to unify and preserve and hold on.
Well, I think that we're wanting to preserve what's there.
Well, I think one of the things that we need to take into consideration is that one of the goals is to have the building on the National Register, correct? That's even a mission for you and Albert.
Yeah.
And so the more we stay in line with some of the elements that are there, the easier it will be for that to be considered to be on the National Register. So if we change too many things, then it puts us at risk in that application. So I, too, think that we have to leave it on rendering 2 so that it does, at least the windows and so forth, maintain that 1962 look for the purpose of it being on the National Register, because that will be a significant piece of the history for the building as well.
I was going to say, on a personal opinion, having the rendering 2 actually makes it look like a separate restaurant, in a sense that it will actually help, I think, with business, because your other renderings look more like so much of the hotel as for people that are maybe just passing by wouldn't want to stop in. But because this looks like a separate building, it looks like somewhere I would feel, oh, I'm not staying here, but I can go in there and eat. It has an appeal to it as being almost a little bit separated.
I simply just wanted to set a new foundation of what potentially downtown could start developing like. But it's simply a matter of perception, and we all have different perceptions.
Yeah.
it's-
And then this is the problem, is like he was saying, from a historic board, there really isn't a matter of perception, it's just a matter of rules.
Yes. Sometimes.
For what it's worth, Mateo, I've eaten in this restaurant when it was functioning.
Yes.
And I know you have concerns about the height of the windows,
Yes.
but I can tell you from my perspective as a customer, when I sat in there, I could see out the windows, I can look outside. I don't have people watching me eat from the outside. When the windows are that low, it becomes a concern. And I'm in this industry. I understand your concern about the continuity between the two buildings. We're more concerned with the preservation of it. And I can tell you, as a customer, those windows didn't bother me at all. It was actually kind of nice, because people can walk by, they can see in.
Yes.
They can see what the interior looks like without staring at the people that are sitting at the tables.
Yes. And yes. And
So I want to,
Yes.
I understand your concern, but I
So-
also want you to understand that
True.
it actually was pretty functional, and we need to keep it as historic as possible.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The floor is still open if anyone wants to make a motion.
Well, first of all, I'm happy to hear about the washing of the building. That's a huge win. So I think that's a really good start to be able to get you where you want to go with the outside of the building. So with that said, I'll make the motion to deny the request to modify one-story building located at the northeast corner of St. Cloud Hotel based on a finding that the proposed alterations are not consistent with the purpose and intent of the ordinance number 2018-57, City of St. Cloud Land Development Code, Article 3, Division 24, Historic Preservation Overlay, HPO District. Specifically, the proposed alterations to the one-story building are not appropriate on the building has acquired historic significance on its own right. So, and I would like to propose rendering 2 with that so that we have that in the record.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second on the motion. All right, further discussion? All right, absent further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to deny signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed signify likewise. Motion to deny is set. Christina, question in regards to the canopy and the other elements. Is that a staff approval level? Okay, so we don't need another motion or anything in regards to that?
If you would like to do another motion, that would be great, because then I could just put it in the approval letter for this, and you can have that this week. So if you want to add a motion, that would be wonderful.
Nobody's wanting to throw.
Although you did
nobody's
just
wanting to
approve
throw.
rendering 2, and they're in
Yeah,
rendering 2.
I mean, that's
so
included, so the elements are there.
If you
Yeah.
wanted to cross your Ts and dot your Is, it wouldn't hurt. So.
Okay, so I will make a motion to include the additional elements not listed in the proposed denial, to include elements on the rendering 2 as presented. Is that sufficient?
You want to be more specific as to?
Do we need to name
specifically
the elements?
the-
Okay, to include the overhang and the removable elements.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have competition for the second. Who wants to arm wrestle?
Second.
Member Longmong is recognized as being the second. All right, further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. The motion passes. I think we have direction. Mateo, I'm sorry that you didn't get exactly what you wanted, but I think that in the end, we're still going to have a good product there regardless. So I know what you're doing is going to bring a good product out there.
And the rendering you provided looks really good. Yes.
Paula just didn't like her particular portrait that you used back here in the corner. She liked,
That's included, you just don't know it.
Are you talking about her benches?
No, sorry, you didn't see Paula back in the corner of the rendering there? All right, we can open the floor to public comment. If there's anybody here in the public that wishes to speak at this time, you have 3 minutes to do so. Or, excuse me, you have the ability to step up and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. All right, absent of that, we'll go on to the individual board comments. Do any individual board members wish to make a comment this evening? All right, quiet. Informationally, our next meeting is Tuesday, August 9th at 6 p.m. And informationally, it's not on there, but I believe we have a workshop before that, so Tuesday, August 9th at 5 p.m. would be your workshop as well. And that being the end, we'll call this meeting to adjournment. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.